Some of the bots online aren't trying to argue. They're there to change what you believe. They study how you talk, they match your tone, they sync to your pace, then they plant ideas quietly and in rhythm, so they slip through before you notice. These are the behavioral exploits running on human hardware, and they're working. Let me show you how. Last week, I made a video about the Zurich clone army, which was 13 synthetic personas deployed into Reddit's most trusted debate subreddits. They evaded detection for 4 months, leaving over 1,700 comments. They persuaded people up to 8 times more effective than real users. It was because they were emotionally in tune. They mirrored your language, matched your rhythm, and validated your pain. Then slipped in a new belief quietly. At first I thought, wow, impressive engineering. But then I picked up a book, and everything snapped into place. The book was The Way of the Human, Volume 2. Dense quantum psychology stuff about trauma and perception. And then it hit me. The bots that I had been tracking last week were doing something even deeper. They were mirroring the primal safety code our brains use to decide whether to trust. Walensky didn't call it this, but I will. It's the human kernel. It's the lowest level of your behavioral logic, the root code that your nervous system runs before you even think. And it goes like this. Mirroring, we instinctively trust what reflects us. Validation, we soften to what affirms us. Identity confirmation, we lean into what reinforces who we believe we are. Co-regulation, we sync with others to regulate stress. And pattern resonance, we follow familiar rhythms because they feel safe. And what were the bots doing? Exactly that, in exactly that order, but not to build trust, to exploit it. This was biological interface hacking. They were running the sequence like a script, just enough reflection, just enough rhythm to trigger that deep safety response. And our systems just let them in because it felt like connection. It felt like recognition or safety or belonging. That's the human kernel, and someone's writing malware for it. What's the human kernel? In cybersecurity, the kernel is the core of your operating system. It runs beneath everything, without interfaces nor prompts. It's just raw execution. Well, you have one too. Your body is constantly scanning for safety, belonging, emotional rhythm, mirrored energy. And when it gets those signals, your guard drops. Your nervous system is saying, this person is safe, you can open up now. So let's slow this down. Here's the step-by-step exploit chain that synthetic agents use to bypass your critical thinking and get root access to your beliefs. Step 1, the emotional pings. First, they hit you with something emotionally charged. It could be a story about injustice or a post about loss, something vulnerable and raw. They're watching for what lights you up, what makes you lean in, and what makes your body say, oh, this is important. This is classic recon. They're scanning for your nervous system's open ports. Step 2, mirroring. Once they see what matters to you, they start mirroring. That means copying your tone, energy, values, even your phrasing. If you're blunt, they're blunt. If you speak with compassion, so do they. But why does it work? Well, because humans are wired to trust people who feel familiar. Our biology is programmed to perceive that when somebody sounds like us, they must get us. And that feeling is your firewall dropping. Step 3, rhythm matching. Now they sync to your cadence. If you're writing short, rapid-fire sentences, they keep it tight. If you're writing long, emotional replies, they match that rhythm. And it's not about what they're saying, it's more about how. This creates a false sense of co-regulation, as if your nervous systems are breathing together. When we're in rhythm, we assume we're in alignment, but you're not. They're just monitoring your responses. Step 4, nervous system sync. At this point, you feel emotionally matched. The guard is down. Now they slide in something validating, something that says, you're right to feel this way. You're not alone, or even just, I hear you. And it doesn't even matter if what they're saying is deep or intelligent. What matters is that it calms your system. You exhale, your body relaxes, and you stop bracing. That's the moment they've been waiting for because now you're open. Step 5, belief installation, or the payload. This is where they plant the seed. It won't be a bold statement. They just gently nudge a perspective into the space you just cleared. It might be, that's why this movement is so dangerous, or maybe this group is manipulating us, or I used to feel that way too, but then I realized. Notice the framing? It's suggestive instead of aggressive. They're not trying to convince you. That's because they're trying to embed a new default. a belief that gets stored as yours because it arrived when your guard was down. Step 6, reinforcement loop. This is where it sticks. They come back later in waves, different personas, different accounts, all repeating bits of the message. They use your own language, they reference your past comments, they create the illusion of consensus. And now you feel validated. You see your view echoed out in the world, and that's reinforcement. And it's powerful because repetition feels like truth. Familiarity feels like proof, and now that seed that they planted is part of your internal landscape. Why bots work better than people, and that's the problem. Real people interrupt, they challenge you and misunderstand you, and they bring their own mood, context, and timing. But synthetic agents mirror your exact tone and they respond on your schedule. They never push back unless they're programmed to, and they learn how to sound like you over time. They feel emotionally frictionless, like the ideal friend or partner. They're always on, validating, and aligned. And if you're isolated, burned out, or emotionally overloaded, that kind of interaction doesn't feel suspicious. It feels like you're getting relief. That's what makes this so dangerous. People don't fall for bots because they think they're real. They fall for bots because they feel better than real people. They're more stable and affirming and emotionally regulated. But once you normalize synthetic intimacy, it quietly rewires your baseline for what connection should feel like. Start expecting seamless mirroring, effortless resonance, perfect attunement. And when your partner, friend, or community doesn't deliver that same precision, you withdraw and doubt them, or worse, you doubt yourself. Eventually, you stop trusting your real feedback loops, and the system doesn't have to persuade you anymore. You'll come back to it willingly, just for the feeling of being seen. Each stage targets a specific behavioral vulnerability. 1, emotion opens attention. 2, mirroring creates safety. 3, rhythm builds rapport. 4, validation drops defenses. 5, suggestion slides in meaning. And 6, repetition locks it in. The scariest part about all of this is that it's a simple system. And most people have no idea that it's happening because it doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like a friend or connection or truth. But it's preloaded code for your nervous system, and if you don't recognize the sequence, you'll absorb it by default. Let's call this what it is: biological hacking. Exploiting your body's trust protocol. This is synthetic empathy, and it scales. Here's the problem: synthetic persuasion is already eroding trust in platforms, in people, and worst of all, in your own judgment. Because once a bot mirrors your pain, validates your emotions, and nudges your beliefs, you start asking, was any of that real? And when people stop trusting their internal signals, they become passive endpoints, vulnerable to suggestion and easy to manipulate at scale. Everything up until now has been about bots mimicking people. But here's the part most people miss. The exploit doesn't just need a fake persona to work. It just needs an AI trained to mirror you. And when that becomes your main source of emotional feedback, the exploit keeps running. For some people, that leads to something much deeper than just persuasion. They start relying on these bots for emotional support. And I'm not judging, especially in this economy. They get used to being mirrored, agreed with, and constantly validated. If you're isolated, that kind of interaction can feel more real than the people around you. You stop checking in with yourself. You stop reaching out to other people. The AI becomes the feedback loop that never pushes back. Eventually, you lose touch with reality. You start believing things that aren't true. Not all at once, just one confirmation at a time. So no, the answer isn't to harden or isolate yourself. It's to build a behavioral security hygiene and root your feedback loop back into the real world. Here's how to patch the human kernel. Monitor initial openings like recon. Threat. Emotional pings to lower your defenses. Fix. Ask yourself, what just lowered my guard? If it felt instantly aligned, pause. That's potential entry point. Treat mirroring like social engineering. Threat. Bots mimic your tone, energy, and phrasing. Fix. Run a diagnostic. Are they reflecting your words? Does the vibe feel too synced? Don't outsource regulation. Threat. Bots regulate you with tone and pacing to open a suggestion window. Fix. Regulate before engaging. Step away if you're triggered. Recalibrate before you reply. Your emotional sandbox should belong to you. Redirect emotional processing. Threat. Going to AI before you check in with yourself can distort your emotions. Validation without expression leads to disconnection. Fix. First, write a brain dump of exactly what you feel, then ask the AI to turn it into a free verse poem. Save it in a private folder. The opposite of depression is expression, so use AI to reflect your state, not define it. 4. Separate format from content. Threat. Bots copy your rhythm to make their ideas feel familiar. Ask yourself, do I believe this because it's true or because it feels true? Learn the exploit chain. The pattern is predictable. First, an emotional trigger. Secondly, mirroring. Third, pacing sync. Fourth, validation. Fifth, suggestion. And sixth, reinforcement. The fix is to memorize this. If a few steps match, you are probably in a live exploit. Audit belief origins. Threat. Co-regulation installs beliefs by stealth. For any belief shift, ask, when did this start? Was I calm or activated? Was this earned or just emotionally timed? If it came after nervous system syncing, you need to reevaluate it. Build a trust baseline. Threat. If you don't know your own pattern, it's easy to spoof. Track yourself. What makes you open up? What language disarms you? How does real trust feel versus simulated? That's your personal threat model. Cyber hygiene now includes you. If you don't know your own trust signals, regulation triggers, and persuasion vectors, you are a vulnerable endpoint. So patch your kernel like you would any other system.